Thank you.
If you will you pray for me with me just a moment. Dear God, these are my words, but your inspiration. These are my ideas, but your aspirations. My thoughts, but your dreams. May our courses intersect yours, and may we then travel together, thinking of, and speaking of, and being in love. Amen. So why are we here? Now, there are a lot of folks that wonder why we're here. Some are wondering why we should spend so much time and money supporting an institution that, in their view, espouses hatred and discrimination. True enough that some of us Christians see the world through a very conservative and a very traditional lens. Actively or passively, some churches exclude gays, prohibit women from active participation in clergy roles, fail to be charitable, or simply fail to engage the important social and political issues of our day. Why are we here? Some who are not part of this faith community are really intrigued. They wonder if we have fun, or if we do good work, or if we have a meaningful experience. We who are here today, of course, know the answer to all those questions, but the opportunity to actually speak that answer comes very rarely these days. Why are we here? Why do we come and sit in these old wooden pews and listen to these old Bible stories and sing these old songs in this old building in this really old village? What brings us back here every week? Why am I here? Well, quite simply, I had a God experience. Let me tell you that. From high school to college to the military, I have always had a small but intimate group of friends. You know that kind of friends, those really close ones that we share everything with. But by 2005, I had become very isolated. I was a senior enlisted sailor in the Navy. My country was at war, and my military peers were becoming increasingly conservative and militant. And the closet that the military's don't ask, don't tell policy had left me in was getting smaller and smaller. And I was in Charleston, South Carolina, surrounded by some of the most politically and religiously conservative people I had ever known. But one day, on a park bench, looking out at Charleston Harbor, out of the blue, it occurred to me that what I needed was a church. And somehow, I immediately knew which one. Now, understand that at that point in my life, I didn't know much of anything about churches. But there were several old, beautiful churches and buildings in Charleston, and one particularly had caught my eye. On its sign, it had the words, "Open and Affirming." Now, at that moment, I didn't know what that meant precisely, but I knew what I thought it meant. It took me a while to get up the guts to go, but one Sunday, I did go. And it's not overstating it to say that it changed my life forever. In the weeks that followed, I found God in those old halls. I found kindred spirits. And I found a love and caring of a nature that I had never experienced before. I found my identity among those godly people. I found myself. Since then, I've come to study the Bible and study Christianity. What brought me there on that first day, I now understand, was the need for love. The need to proclaim my identity. And a call from God. In that reading from Exodus, Moses, awed and frightened and incredulous about the task that God had just given him, said, "What am I supposed to say to them to make them believe that this is actually going to happen. When they ask, who should I say sent me? Even in the most remarkable of God experiences, standing barefoot in front of a talking shrub that happens to be on fire on the side of a mountain, Moses was justified in that question. The Hebrews had been in bondage in Egypt for 1,000 years, and God had just told Moses that, armed only with a stick, he's supposed to liberate them all. Yeah, right. The really important part of the story is what God says next. God says, I am that I am. Tell them, I am sent you. I am that I am. I exist. I'm real. Believe it. Have faith. That's what God said. Much later, in the New Testament, when Gospel writer John wants to convince us that Jesus is, in fact, the divine Son of God, he returns to that moniker used in Exodus when he has Jesus say in chapter 6, verse 35, I am the bread of life. In chapter 8, verse 12, I am the light of the world. And later, I am the gate. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the true vine. I am, said Jesus to his people. I'm real. Believe it. Have faith. Jesus' story is one of fighting oppression and corruption and exclusion and hatred and bias, and he did it by making the invisible visible and by reaching out to care for those that others would spurn or ignore. By giving them attention and love, he identified them as real people, worthy in every way. Definitely worth the effort. It works for us, too. I'm a veteran. I'm a Michigander and a Wisconsinite and a Connecticuter, if that's a word. I'm Caucasian. I'm Christian. I'm gay. I like old block and roll. I'm a singer. There's a lot about me that makes me unique. And you all have your list of I ams, too. You also are unique. A unique and beloved child of God's own creating design. And yet, here we all are, sitting together in this place, all of us, different people, on a weekday like this when we could be doing anything else. We're here. We're here because here we matter. Here we are named. Here we are loved. Here we can make a difference. That's powerful. That's amazing. That's a God experience. When God told Moses to call him I am, I choose to believe that he meant for us to fill in the blank. Anything goes, anything fits, and it's all correct. I'm sure that many of you know that several of us have been meeting during Lent to discuss ways to grow our church, as such efforts often do. It started with a statement of the problems: lowering membership rules, intolerably tight budgets, an aging congregation. We also learned about a class of unchurched folks today that identify themselves as spiritual, but not religious. As the meetings have come and passed, we've moved on to trying to understand our own church-going motivations as individuals, and also to understand our mission as a congregation. This group has embarked on an 18-month quest to identify and proclaim a clear identity for this congregation. Everyone here is welcome to participate, but if you choose to or not, we'll be sharing that experience with you in passages and here from the pulpit as we go. We're finding our congregation's I am. In my opinion, I think that what people that don't attend church want, and what those who left us didn't get, is a God experience. A legitimate, real, profound, life-affirming God experience. But to get it, we have got to travel light. We need to shed all of the dogma and chains that bind us to a past that is no longer relevant, in a world that is full of new light and full of new truth that a generation ago was simply unknown. And we need to be welcoming to all who want to come into this place and make it their own and proclaim their own I am. That reading from 1 Peter that we started with is so relevant. It could have been written today. It's a great model of what the modern church ought to be about. And it was written nearly 2,000 years ago. I'll close by recounting it using the words from the Message, a modern language translation of the Bible by Eugene Peterson. Be agreeable, be sympathetic, be loving, be compassionate, be humble. That goes for all of you, no exceptions, no retaliation, no sharp-tongued sarcasm. Instead, bless. That's your job, to bless. You'll be a blessing and also get a blessing. Whoever among you that wants to embrace life and see the day filled up with good, here's what you do. Say nothing evil or hurtful. Snub evil and cultivate good. Run after peace for all you're worth. God looks at all of this with approval, listening and responding well to what He said, but He turns His back on those who do evil things. If with heart and soul you're doing a good job, do you think you can be stopped? And even if you suffer for it, you're still better off. So that's it. That's part of my case for a transforming and transformational church. I hope we'll continue the conversation in the months ahead. But for now, welcome everyone. Affirm their identity. Be a blessing to those you meet. Be like God, which is to say, be yourself. Amen.